I used to spend way too much time modeling things like this. You don't need to. I'm going to show you how to make a paper lantern with some procedural shaders. Step number 1 before you do anything. Always use real world references. It's all one big cylinder, so let's start with the cylinder. Shift A, mesh, cylinder. I like to work with less, it makes things easier. So I'm going to take 32 divided by 2 and that will be 16. Scale it right down. I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to select this bottom face, E to extrude, S to scale, and I'm roughly going to get the shape first. And look, it's got a little bit at the bottom. Let's make that. Let's make a little bit that comes out the top, so it's a bit that could be hanged. Let's right click, shade smooth. Okay, but that doesn't look like it. It's all rounded. Hold Alt, click here, Control B, scroll up with the mouse wheel. Maybe something like this. This one, Control B. Play around with it until it feels about right. But we need some color and texture. Alright, let's go. I'm going to select all the faces that should be paper. Go to our Materials tab and create a new material. Call it Paper. Assign that. Control I to invert your selection. Make a new one. Call this one Metal. And assign that. Now on the metal one, let's just make it darker. Switch to Material View. And bump up that metallic. Select one of the polygons with the paper material. And let's do some procedural shading. First, notice how these have a bit of a fall off where the light is inside. Let's make that. Select these polygons here, Shift S, cursor to selection. Now let's press Shift A. Add in an empty sphere. And we're going to use this empty to control the fall off of a pretend light inside. We can do that with a texture coordinate node. And then choose an object. Take the ink dropper, choose our empty sphere there. Add in a node called distance. Take the object, put it into the distance node, add in a color ramp, and then put the value of that into the color ramp. And then let's put this into the material output and see what we have. Notice now if I scale this sphere, we can control a fall off using this empty node. That's handy. It's going the other way around though from what we want. So let's just go to the color ramp, take the black and the white and switch them. And now scale it down again. Okay, but look, the lantern has all these ridges. How could we make that? Well, I know that the wave texture kind of gives us something like that. Let's have a look what that looks like. Almost going the wrong way. Let's change the direction to Z. And hey, look at that. If we bump up the scale here, we get more lines. Let's look at our reference. I'm not counting them, but maybe this looks right. Now we need to combine these two. Take the color ramp, put it into A. Take the wave texture, put it into B. Let's have a look at the result. Almost, but not what we're looking for. We need to change this to multiply. Now if we play around with this factor, and we can increase those lines coming in over. Okay, but there's also vertical lines going on. So let's just duplicate it. Control click to have a look at it. Change it to Y. That doesn't work. We're going to need some UV coordinates. Switch to the UV editing tab. How do we UV map this? Well, cylinders are pretty easy. All we need to do is take the hard edges. Then from the back, hold Control, click a line down, and we're going to have this selection here. Right click, mark seam. Now press A, U to unwrap, and we'll choose minimal stretch. Cool. Now if we go back, add a texture coordinate node, and change the input vector to UV, we almost get it. We should probably straighten out our UVs. Select this line here, right click, align horizontally. This line, right click, align horizontally. This line, right click, align vertically. This line, right click, align vertically. Select this polygon here, Control L, right click, follow active quads. That makes it all nice and straight. Now if we have a look, much better. Ish. If we change our scale all the way down, we get vertical lines that might feel about right. Cool. If we add in another color ramp, we can make it feel a little bit stronger. We need to use the multiply node again. Take the result of our last one into A, and then this new one into B. And then, hey, look at that. Straight up, this might work. If it doesn't, play around with your sliders here to get the size and scale that you want. If we take our principal BSDF, turn the base color down a bit, put this back into our surface, what we're going to use is the emission. Take what we just made as a strength, and then, hey, look at that. We can even pick colors. Put the roughness up a bit. What if we wanted to make it brighter? Put in a math node. Change it to multiply. Now this will control how bright that pretend light is in there. Let's take our empty and make it a child of our lantern with Control P, so that when we move it, it stays correct. But Jamie, your reference has writing on it. How are we going to do that? We can do that relatively easily, actually. What we want to do is make a new image texture that we're going to paint onto. So Shift A, add in an image texture, create a new one, call it paper writing or something, I don't know. 1024 by 1024 is absolutely fine. With this new image texture selected, we're going to go over to texture paint. Select white and go to fill. Okay, X to switch back. Now take our paintbrush out and we can paint in whatever we want. I'm going to make up some alien language writing. That'll do. All we need to do is multiply this into here. So add in a color mix. Take our original one, put it in A, make sure you change it to multiply. Now take our writing and put it into the B factor. Bump it up, and then, hey, cool, look, that works. But realistically, this would be on the surface of the paper, and the paper would have the color. So let's add in the color node, change it to a color. And we're going to put this into the color of the emission, and the base color. Almost, but we need the black to be black, because it would be ink on top of the surface. So let's use our old friend multiply again. And then multiply that base color by our RGB color there. Cool. You could not be happy about your alien writing and then make something new. Now that we set this node network up, we can do it directly in the shading and get a real sense of what it's going to look like. Even in cycles, you don't really want emission shaders to be lighting things up because it's actually very inefficient. If you want renders and things to go faster, what you want to do is actually add in a light to do all the work. So I'm going to add in a point light here. Change its color to be roughly the same, turn it up a bunch so we know that it should be working, change the radius here, and make it so that it's going to be outside of the paper lantern. Something like that. I'm going to make it a child of the lantern. And now this is much better. This is going to be a lot more efficient. If we Shift D and duplicate, all of a sudden our shader doesn't work. So we could make more materials, but that's going to be long and annoying. So because what we made here was relying on the position of that empty, we're going to want to bake what we have here to a texture. So let's do that. Create a new image texture. This is what we'll bake it to. Call it something smart. Paper emit maybe. Now for this one, it's just going to be black and white. Now for the material output, all we're going to use is a diffuse node. That means what we now see here is going to be baked to a texture. For some reason we've lost a lot of the white values, so I'm just going to bump up the multiply. Cool, so let's say that's what we want to bake. Select the texture node that you want to bake it to. Make sure you're in cycles. Scroll down to the bake tab, open it up, change the bake type to just diffuse, and then hit bake. Now if we go to the texture paint tab, we have made this texture. Cool. We could save it. Just go image, save as, put it somewhere smart. Go back to our shader. Key thing to note, this one right now is not really saved. This is why we had to save it before. If we opened it up and choose the one we just created, we've now got this locked and committed. We can just take this new texture and pump this into that multiply there. Now, if I move this away, and maybe just kill it for now, you can see we're only relying on 2 of the textures we made rather than all of our node network. If we duplicate now, they're all going to be fine. Cool. What if you want them to be different colors? Color ramp, change it from linear to constant, add in a bunch of points, and then choose some colors for these. Take an object info random node and pump this as a factor and put this into the color here. They're going to be random colors. That's cool. Pick a nice color palette that works for you. If you want more of them to be one color than another, just make sure it takes up more space on here. Everything's quite flat right now. We could actually add in some loop cuts here to make all of our polygons square. Then, if we take the result of our ribs here, and then pump that into the height of a displacement node, like this, then out on a subdivision surface, put the levels up to 4, we get actual geometry deformation. Cool. So here's what the final shader looked like for me. I did a few extra things, like playing around with the transmission. I felt that make it look a little bit more like there's an actual light inside. In the next one, we'll hang these up and make them blow in the wind. Subscribe if you want to see that. If all of this is a little too fast for you, don't worry. In the description, there's a link to the final Blender file which you can pull apart. I'm also putting up a mostly unedited version of this that explains the thought process in a lot more detail.